Todd, would you lead us in Pledge Allegiance?
All right, ready to begin? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can we have a roll call, please?
Chair Cameron Carrizales,
Present.
Vice Chair Aaron Todd,
Here.
Commissioner Ashley Connolly,
Present.
Commissioner Derek Farage,
Here.
Commissioner Alex Flores.
Can you note that Alex Flores has an excused absence?
Thank you. Item 4, I don't see approval of past meeting minutes on this. I know it's my agenda.
The minutes will be on the next
Okay.
meeting.
Perfect. Item 4, oral communication. This is opportunity for citizens' presentation or comments not related to agenda items, but within the responsibility of the Fillmore Planning Commission. Each speaker is limited to 5 minutes. We don't have any speakers. We'll move on to item 5, public hearing. Public hearing to review and the discussion of zoning ordinance amendment to remove the 1/3 retail requirement within the central business district core. Staff?
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening, Commissioners. So we're here to review the 1/3 retail requirement in the central business district core. We won't be considering a resolution tonight. It'll just be a discussion and review of the 1/3 retail requirement. Alrighty, so the little background on the central business district. Downtown Fillmore is the historical center and cultural heart of the city. It began as soon as Fillmore began in 1888 when the Southern Pacific Railroad placed their depot on Main Street. Early businesses like saloons and general stores popped up around the initial depot. A fire in 1903 actually destroyed those first businesses, and the local businesses decided to rebuild on Central Avenue, and that's where they remain today. The downtown specific plan was adopted back in 1994 to guide the development and redevelopment of downtown. And this visioning process started back in 1988 when Main Street Architects consultant was brought on to develop this vision, and that vision culminated in the downtown specific plan. There are a variety of businesses present in the downtown, including grocery and drug stores, beauty salons, antique stores, bakeries. We also have our tourist-oriented businesses there as well, including the Town Theater, Giesinger Winery, and the Railroad Museum and the Fillmore Historical Museum. The downtown is thoroughly mentioned in our regulating documents. The 1988 general plan describes downtown Fillmore as a district that provides good and services for the local population. This is consistent with the development pattern that we see in the downtown of pre-World War II, before the widespread adoption of the automobile. Most towns in America had these central commercial districts where people would get most of their goods and services. The 2003 land use element, 1994 zoning ordinance, and the downtown specific plan all describe the central business district as a pedestrian-oriented retail district. The goal of the central business district, as stated in the downtown specific plan, is to provide retail establishments and community-serving businesses. Finally, the 1994 zoning ordinance prohibits car-centric uses such as service, gas stations, car washes, and drive-through restaurants. This is consistent with the general plan, with the central business district being the local pedestrian-oriented commercial district, while the commercial highway district is where those car-centric uses are found. A little background for the 1/3 retail requirement. This is just one of the policies that supports the vision and the plan for downtown Fillmore. This requirement has been reviewed several times by the City Council, notably in the early 2010s, 2017, and then just last year. The most recent direction from the City Council came from this last review in September of 2025, and they directed staff to begin the process of removing this requirement from the zoning ordinance. The zoning ordinance amendment, it's nothing too fancy administratively. It's just striking the text you see on the screen there from the zoning ordinance. That will not be, it's just striking that. It's, no other changes will be made by adopting this zoning ordinance amendment. And as far as this amendment only applies to the core area, which is the red on the map there. So it's pretty much the Central Avenue area, but then it also spills over a little bit on Santa Clara Street and Fillmore Street as well. But the other areas of the Central Business District do not have the 1/3 retail requirement. Yeah, like I said tonight, staff is recommending that the Planning Commission open the public hearing, discuss the amendment of the city's zoning ordinance to remove the 1/3 retail requirement from the Central Business District core, and continue the public hearing to February 18 at the next regular Planning Commission meeting so we can properly notice the zoning ordinance amendment. And then we'll have resolutions for you to review and approve as a recommendation to the City Council. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Thank you. Commissioners?
So I have several questions. So I just want to know, does the staff believe that the 1/3 retail requirement to support walkability, tourism, and the historic downtown character, does that remain valid under the current conditions that we're seeing?
Staff does not believe it currently remains valid, as there are several businesses such as administrative offices, like doctor's offices and realtors, that are inconsistent with the 1/3 retail requirement, as well as beauty salons as well. And this is due to inconsistent enforcement throughout the years that this was adopted.
Okay. Can you explain to me how retail is currently being interpreted and like you said, enforced or not enforced for that 1/3 requirement?
Yeah, so the zoning ordinance defines retail as the sale of merchandise to the general public. So things like flowers, groceries, those are a couple examples. And then as far as enforcement goes, staff enforces that requirement through the business licensing process. And as part of that, I review the business licenses for the planning department, and I always ask businesses within the downtown to provide me a site plan where they're going to have their retail and then a description of the goods that they're going to be selling to the general public.
But beyond that, there's no follow-up, like you're not going to the business and double checking that they're selling something in the front?
No, there's no follow-up.
Okay. And then beyond, I know that there at one point was like a facade grant program, to rehabilitate the facades, and that's since expired. What financial or regulatory incentives does Fillmore currently provide that could directly support the businesses occupying that 1/3 retail frontage?
Yeah, we currently do not have any financial or regulatory incentives for that.
Okay. When that did exist, and I don't know if there were other incentives or, I don't know if there were other incentives in the past as well. When they did exist, how frequently were they used by the property owners and the businesses? And were they able to reach specifically the tenants for the frontage area that's required for the 1/3?
I don't have a specific number for how many people took advantage of the grant fund. It was exhausted though, so people did take advantage of it. And before that, we did have programs through the former redevelopment agency before California got rid of redevelopment agencies back in 2011, 2012, that time.
And in your opinion, would you say that those, when they did take advantage of it, and when there was the redevelopment agency, that was successful? Or was it a big help to those businesses or to those property owners to maintain the retail?
I'm not sure as far as how successful they were. I do know several buildings in the downtown were built through redevelopment agency grants and loans. And those were rebuilt after the 1994 earthquake, when many of the buildings had collapsed after that event.
Excuse me, Jake, can I elaborate on what you've already answered? His answer is correct. I just want to elaborate a little more. On the past facade program, there are 4 properties that participated in the grant. Prior to that, in the 1994, after the earthquake, just about every single building downtown participated in rebuilding, and we used state, federal, and county funds and city funds to help rebuild. And SBA grants, there were a lot of grants available at that time, and every single building downtown took advantage of it at that time. Take advantage of it's not the proper term, but they had the opportunity and they used it.
Awesome. What flexibility does Fillmore currently have, or could it implement to allow for pop-up or temporary retail to uses to count towards compliance to the 1/3 retail?
Yeah, we currently have a pop-up business ordinance, and that allows for temporary businesses to go into a space or a property for a period of up to 90 days. And just allow them to test the waters, and if they do, or if they are successful in that location, they're able to apply for whatever, a development permit or a conditional use permit, whichever is required for them to continue in that location.
Okay. And if the city did wish to maintain the 1/3 retail requirement, what additional tools like funding or partnerships or pilot programs would the staff like to see, or would they recommend to effectively support the compliance amongst the property owners and tenants that they have right now?
Yeah, we currently have a city council ad hoc economic development committee, and they're actively exploring ways to economically develop the downtown. One of these methods, we did have a consultant come in about 3 years ago called Retail Strategies, and they have a whole suite of actions that the city can take. And the city is implementing those. One that they're working on right now is updating the signage along the highway, letting people know, like, hey, downtown's here, we're open for business. And then I believe they're also working on the wayfinding signage downtown as well. And those were suggestions from our consultant.
Did the consultant suggest reducing the requirement for retail?
I'm not sure if they did or not.
Okay. And then I'm just curious, and you may not know the answer to this, but, once the ground floor space, let's say, is converted away from a retail use, and let's say we get rid of the 1/3 retail requirement, how feasible would it be legally and practically to bring it back to an active storefront in the future? Let's say we hate the outcome of it. What could we do to turn it back?
It wouldn't really be feasible to.
Would not?
Yeah, it would not. As we'd be asking staff to go in and basically evict businesses, which is not practically feasible at all.
Okay. That's all my questions for right now. Thank you so much.
I have a couple, but you want to go first if you have any? No.
All right, thank you for that. So just a couple questions with eliminating or removing the 1/3 requirement. Is there a specific reason why we're looking at like downtown Fillmore when there's a lot of areas that are vacant now?
Yeah, I mean, we have a very high vacancy rate downtown. And many of the property owners have complained that the 1/3 retail requirement is a barrier to them attracting tenants, just because they're not able to find someone who's interested in doing retail in downtown Fillmore.
Okay, and I know that, I know specifically one side, there is like a double story, where there's usage upstairs as well. Is that what we're looking at, is to completely remove it ground floor, or is it entire building?
Yeah, the 1/3 retail requirement only applies to the ground floor. So a lot of the buildings downtown are mixed use, so they have residential in the top. So removing the 1/3 wouldn't affect those residential units at all.
Okay, and then our last question is, are we looking at possibly having like doctors come in, or potential like doctors' offices, or are we looking at like maybe medical? Or I'm just trying to gather like the bearings of why we're looking at reducing like the retail part of it.
Yeah, doctor's office would be an allowed use, and there are already several downtown already. So yeah, they would be allowed. The only change to them would be that they would not have to comply with the 1/3 retail requirement in the front. So they could just go in there without that.
Okay, that's all that I have now. Thank you.
Sorry, may I ask one follow-up question to that one? So what kind of businesses are asking to, what is the demand? Is it office space or something else?
Just from my anecdotal experience reviewing the business licenses, there's a lot of different businesses that are interested in going downtown. Barbershops, beauty salons, a floral shop, and then I also reviewed a clothing retailer, so they sell clothes.
So it's mostly retail?
I wouldn't say it's mostly retail. It's a diverse mix of uses. Realtors have wanted to go down there, and then basically a gaming place for kids to come and game on the computers there too.
Okay.
So yeah, it's a mix of the types of tenants in the 2 years that I've been here.
Okay, but it does sound like most of those are selling something.
I mean, the ones that have been approved are selling something, so they have complied with the 1/3 retail.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I just have a couple questions to kind of piggyback on everybody's. Do we know what the historical vacancy rate for downtown has been over the
No.
last, 5, 10 years? I mean, going down, just this evening, there's 5, 6 vacant buildings. I mean, that kind of plays into, the property owners not being able to attract, tenants, but do we know, like, historical, what the vacancy rate has been?
We haven't been tracking the historical vacancy rate. That was a suggestion from the consultant, is to have a registry of the vacant retail spaces, so people are able to look on the city website and say, oh, here are the vacant retail places in the downtown. But that hasn't been something that the city has tracked in the years past.
Okay. If we remove this 1/3 retail requirement, and a business comes in, most of the storefronts have, front-facing windows. In removing the requirement, can we add additional requirements of, say, you can't remove the windows, because that does take away from, the look and feel of the downtown area? And also potentially going into that, adding requirements to also not have the same types of businesses. We don't need 3 gyms necessarily in the downtown area. Is that something that this process can also do? Is, yes, we're removing the 1/3 retail requirement and changing this zoning ordinance, is maybe adding other requirements in there to stop, again, multiple businesses of the same type.
As far as the requirements for windows, we do already have regulations around that, as far as, you can't glaze your windows or make them reflective. So those regulations would stay in place. As far as adding new regulations, that it is possible to add that, if that's the direction that the commissioners would like to give staff.
Yep, those are my questions. Thank
Yeah, I
you.
have a couple. It's kind of tying on to his question, Derek's question was, currently, how many vacancies do we have? Do we know currently, not, maybe not historically, but
That I'm not sure.
Not
We'd have to
sure.
do a survey.
do we have just rough ballpark, do we know, staff knows if it's 10%, 20% sitting and,
I'm not aware of them, yeah.
and are the property owners, is it multiple property owners that own downtown? Or is there 2 or 3 or?
Yeah, it's multiple property owners. Yeah, there's some property owners who own more than one downtown property, but for the most part, it's quite a few property owners who are in that area.
Do we know historically, I don't know, in the records, if there was a point where downtown Fillmore was full vacant, there was no vacancies and it was all businesses? Was there a point where it was ever that downtown?
I'm not aware of any records that exist like that.
Immediately after the earthquake, it was filled. It was filled to approximately about 12 years ago or 15 years ago, and then vacancies started to come up.
What, do you have an idea what kind of drew that causes vacancy? Was it a shift? I know retail is not something, retail's more difficult in today's era because of the Amazons, because of the Walmarts, because of those folks that sell and deliver things next day to your house. So it naturally converts these retail spaces into, you get these.
I mean, I don't know what it was. So before Amazons and all that stuff, it was big box retail, right? So downtown is convenient for local people. That's why we go downtown. But I don't know the cause of vacancies.
Can I just ask again, so you said that it had a boom basically right after the funding was provided to the businesses to rebuild? So I just want to bring that point back up, that it seems like it's really tied to support of the businesses to be able to be successful.
Well, I'm not sure if I would, you may want to tie it to that.
Yeah.
Those businesses that received funding, I mean, I was here at that time. It wasn't easy to get that funding. It was difficult. They needed a lot of assistance by the city. We hired people just to get funding for those businesses, and it was quite difficult. We were successful to get the funding, but maybe that was a cause for why it was successful during that time period. But boy, I would not want to go through another earthquake or any kind of disaster.
Right, of course not.
Okay, yeah, just a couple more. It was my understanding, did I hear it correct, that we already have storefronts that are non-compliant to the 1/3 retail?
Yes, that's correct.
So by striking this really doesn't change anything, but it really opens fairness to some of the property owners to allow businesses the same opportunity that some of the non-compliant businesses already, I don't want to say take advantage of, but are currently in place.
Yeah, it could be interpreted like that. But really the intention behind it is giving the property owners flexibility as to what kind of tenants they can attract.
And from staffing, from staff's standpoint, have you guys received any complaints about the vacancies downtown from residents, or do you guys hear that often, that there's vacancies? And
Yes.
because I think just from an aesthetic standpoint, a vacant storefront is an eyesore.
Yes, we get
versus
complaints all the time.
having someone move in that's willing to invest in a TI and clean, fix up the space, and if it is a functional service to the city and could add benefit, I could see that.
Was there ever a requirement for 100% retail?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Okay. Sorry about that.
And then for tracking that, since we're not fully aware of like what the vacancy rate is it possible that there could be a way, let's say it's 20%, with all of the technology that's out now, and somebody in another state is looking to move out into Ventura County or something, is there a way that maybe the city can generate like a chart per se, online that can show vacancy rates for that, or vacancies in that area, in this historic area? And then somebody can click on it and it'll show like square footage, or just something that would give them an option. So then that way that we don't lose a potential person coming into that area. I've seen color-coded options before where green, it's not available, yellow, it's like within 30 days of expiring their lease, and then, or being vacant, and then red, it means it's vacant.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible. It's a vacancy registry is something that the consultant recommended, and yeah, I'm not sure exactly what information would be included in that, but I would expect something like square footage and other amenities that come with the property would be included in that registry.
Yeah, I think that would be extremely valuable, especially to somebody that cannot come out here and drive it and review it. Just like similar to like apartments when they went to like Apartment 360 or whatever, and they can go online and just click and it does the walkthrough, not going that much in depth, but just something that could show a potential buyer or a potential occupant, you know, hey, this is what it is, here's the square footage, this is what it comes with. You know, contact Brian, because he likes to stay busy, or you know, that's hypothetical. But just contact so-and-so for more information. I think that may help a little bit as well.
Yeah.
I have another question. With vacancies, is that lost revenue for the city?
I mean, it could be, yeah, as far as, if, you know, if it was a retailer, you know, that sales tax revenue that the city would be missing out on.
Business license fees?
Business licensing fees, not so much property tax, because that's more, you know, tied to the property owner. But yeah, that is some lost revenue, potentially.
And does tenants have any requirement to maintain in the frontage, not just the storefront, but in front of their properties as well, when they have a business on the ground floor?
As far as I mean, I would think that would be part of the lease, is making sure it's, you know, the storefront's maintained. And then, you know, if a storefront did become very dilapidated, you know, it'd probably become a code enforcement issue at that point. Just, you know, as far as the property maintenance code goes.
Is there any conditions in business licensing when you issue the business license to improve the storefronts, or is it strictly just?
Yeah, there wouldn't be conditions attached to the business license. Yeah, it would just, you know, it's just you're consistent with the zoning ordinance, and that's our review.
But if there's any TIs or construction within the thing, that's reviewed by city staff, right?
Yes, yeah, that would
And
be,
make sure it's followed,
Mhm.
permitted.
yeah.
Okay.
And that'd be building permits.
So you would lose revenue in those permit fees as well if there's vacancies?
Yeah, if no one's improving the space and getting permits for it, yeah.
Okay. That's all the questions I have.
I have another question. For the consultant that was hired, can you explain a little bit about who they are and what they do?
Yeah, so the consultant was Retail Strategies, and they specialize in basically helping towns revitalize their historic downtown. Because this is an issue that small towns like Fillmore see all across the country. So yeah, that is their expertise in marketing the downtown and promoting it, doing events down there. That's part of it as well.
And what's the implementation strategy regarding what they recommended?
So they have, each of their recommendations is listed in like an immediate, low-cost format, and then there's another tier that's, you know, within the next year, 2 years, a little bit higher cost. And so they've got recommendations for each of those.
We can send it to you. She's asking specifically, what are those items? We can forward the entire retail strategy's recommendations, their marketing strategy.
Okay.
It's lengthy. It's very good.
Yeah, and I'm wondering about like the timeline that they recommended and sort of like what's happening, because, you know, I'm wondering if, and also the consultant that helped facilitate and prepare the specific plan, Can you tell me about those consultants and what they do?
Yes, actually, I'll defer to Kevin on that, because,
Main Street Architects, who developed the downtown specific plan, no longer exists. They were purchased by RRM Architects. They're still around. The author, his name's Nick Deitch. He's still here and works for RRM.
Okay, and what, did they at any point recommend reducing the amount of retail or making it less of a shopping district?
No, they do not recommend making it less of a shopping district,
Yeah,
but they, like myself, believe there's more than one way to achieve a shopping district.
Mhm.
Does it have to be 1/3 retail? No. There's many, many different ways you can do that.
okay.
Just one last statement, just to confirm. This was also from the ad hoc meeting from the city council. This is kind of direction towards staff to look at removing this 1/3. So that's coming directly from the ad hoc committee or the entire city council?
it's from the entire city council. It originated with the ad hoc committee, because their role is basically look at these issues specifically, and then, bring it back to the city council. But yeah, this is coming to us from the entire city council.
Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
So I guess we will open the public hearing at this time. And if there's any further discussion among the commissioners.
Yeah.
No public comment, it
Oh,
looks like.
sorry, no
That's
public.
okay, that's okay.
Yeah,
Just
open the
for
public,
record.
yeah, no, we have no public comments or speaker cards. Okay, so we'll open it for discussion for the commissioners.
Can I begin?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, yeah, so I want to first acknowledge like what we're seeing. We are seeing the vacancies. I don't think anybody enjoys the vacancies or thinks they look good. Or, we also understand that it's difficult to, rent these spaces to retail, but also in general, I think commercial properties are having a tough time renting to offices, to any type of program, because our lifestyles have really changed and people have totally, different working styles and locations. So I think that, I want to be careful of providing a short-term solution to something that I see as actually like a long-term problem. And, through reading and researching, preparing for this meeting, I was looking at the downtown specific plan. And there was an addendum that was prepared after the '94 earthquake, kind of just reassessing, the recommendations that were given. And at one point, there was an interview done at the Heritage Valley Festival, where the interviewer was asking residents questions like, what are your favorite things about Fillmore? And the people were like, we love the mountain views, we love the historic architecture, we love the train, we love the laid-back rural atmosphere, and we love the walkability. And they asked them also, okay, what are some things that need improvement? What would you change? And they said, we want more shade, more shopping, and more restaurants. And I, for one, completely agree with that. That totally resonates with me. And I don't think that this is a policy issue. I actually tend to think that this is an implementation problem. And I think that the 1/3 retail, as Jacob, was telling us when I was asking about what's the enforcement? Do you go and check that they're selling stuff? No, okay. How many businesses there are already kind of doing something flexible? It's not totally retail, but it's close enough. To me, 1/3, and it preserves that public realm. It preserves that public living room, third space, eyes on the street, active core. That I think probably all the consultants said is important to maintaining a vibrant, historic downtown. And I think why there's so many nonprofits and consultant agencies who like, that's all they do, is that they want to preserve these downtown cores. And I also think it's something that is unique to our city, and, you know, maybe it would be very difficult to get back if we completely let it be, you know, office space, which, you know, isn't a sure thing. That can come and go too. And so for me, what I think is important would actually be supporting those business owners, supporting the property owners, and instructing, or not instructing, but, you know, working with staff to evaluate some type of a downtown retail activation program, something that presents funding options, partnerships, you know, eligibility requirements, and actual metrics of, you know, what's going on now, what is our vision of success, how do we measure that? And presenting something like that to the city council as a solution, rather than saying, hey, let's remove this 1/3 retail and that's it. You know, because that's never gonna solve our problem. Like, I think we actually need to come up with a strategy of how to assist people. And, you know, just some ideas that I'm thinking of are, you know, tenant improvement grants for just the front portion of the space, facade and storefront improvement programs like we talked about, you know, being taken advantage of before. You know, technical assistance to small businesses. Like, I think there's a barrier to entry, especially for local retail, which is something that I think that's what the downtown should be. It should be local retailers. And so, you know, maybe like financial counseling, you know, insurance advice, you know, resource navigations, things of that nature. Also, marketing campaigns. I know we talked about that there was a marketing team or a consultant hired, but I don't think it's only marketing the businesses. I think it's actually marketing the assistance that's available to the businesses and to the property owners so they know that it's available. And then another idea that I was thinking of and why I asked about the pop-up ordinance, you know, I think there's a valid point of, you know, having something temporary, testing it out and seeing if it could be permanent. And, you know, I was doing a little research on certain nonprofits that have been successful in other downtowns. There's this one called Vacant to Vibrant, where they team up with property owners. They're basically the middleman in a database. So they work with property owners and the potential tenants, like small businesses, and they will say, okay, there's a vacancy, it fits they take the application from the applicant might say, okay, I need to have changing rooms, and I need to have like a 3-compartment sink or whatever, like the needs of what that tenant would need, or that pop-up would need, and then they'll match it with a vacancy. And they'll say, okay, we're gonna take funding that we've collected from different sources, the city, private sponsorship, like, you know, Wells Fargo, Visa, like these big sponsors, and we're gonna subsidize your rent for 3 months. And we're gonna give you a $10,000 grant to develop your business, and we're gonna provide you with some you know, technical assistance, like with insurance or financial counseling, etc. And in that way, these businesses that have the barrier to entry, and I could see that that's happening, that could be happening here, that people have something they want to sell, they make honey or, you know, whatever, and they want to sell it, but they don't know how to get into a store. They don't know how to cross the red tape. They don't know how to do the permitting. And also this nonprofit does the permitting as well. They handle everything. And I'm not saying, you know, we need to work with them, because I don't even think they're in Southern California, but developing a strategy to support our policy so that it actually can be successful rather than just a symbolic requirement of retail. And again, everyone will probably ask, like, where would they get the money for these programs? And I think there's actually, I mean, it'll be a challenge, but it would be kind of stacking and combining, you know, federal, state, local, and private sources. You know, like I know the state has a Preserve America grants, for example, as well as the California Main Street program, which both of those are specifically for not redeveloping, but supporting historic downtowns. There's also, you know, like small business development centers, supported by the federal government, potentially some partnerships with the county or nonprofits. But essentially what I'm saying is my opinion is that instead of removing the retail and advising the city council to do that, we advise the city council to provide support so that we can actually make the downtown successful.
I agree with a lot of what you said. One of the things that, you know, and one of the questions that I was writing down as you were recommending things is, one, the funding.
Mm-hmm.
Federal budgets are, you know, getting cut left and right. In this administration, the county and the state budgets are, you know, in limbo right now. We just don't know how much is coming from the Fed, what's going to come down to the state, from the state to the county to the cities. So relying on, for budgeting purposes of, you know, some of these programs, which would make sense, would be difficult in, you know, the next 5 to 10 years here. So there already are state, you know, the Small Business Administration has a lot of programs that assist people in getting their business licenses, finding locations for their business, and helping them through that long, lengthy process. Where I look at is, one, even with this retail requirement and the changing of everybody's shopping, the way they shop. I mean, big box stores aren't something that I go to, you know, personally. One, we just don't have them local, and I don't want them local. That's just not what our city characteristic wants. But it's changing. So forcing through this 1/3 requirement, the property owners to make sure that they have that component, with the changing of everybody's way of, you know, shopping, it kind of leads to more vacancies in my thought. My opinion of this is, yes, to look at removing that requirement, but making sure that we don't have, you know, 5 hair salons, you know, 5 gyms, and, you know, 5 realtor offices. Where I would probably recommend in removing the 1/3 is putting those requirements of limiting the number of types of businesses in the area. So we don't get just a wall of doctor's offices or wall of retail or real estate agents. So we can still have a diverse, you know, variety of businesses that would potentially be able to come in with removing this restriction of the retail. It's kind of where I'm leaning right now.
The only thing, you know, I would say is that I think it's a different type of retail. Like, it would be more local oriented. And I think it's not about micromanaging or telling people that they have to have a specific type of business. But for me, it's really protecting that public edge of the downtown, which it actually makes it a place, rather than, okay, here's this collection of meaningless buildings that we see everywhere in America, like, okay, who cares, you know, but to maintain the Fillmore-ness of Fillmore. And I think, you know, once you start closing off those storefronts and there's no foot traffic, it's gonna be a disservice to the businesses that are there. And I think a couple months ago, Kevin brought up that, you know, like CVS. Now that Rite Aid is closed, now everyone has to go to CVS, and some people are complaining about the parking. But actually, that's an advantage, because now there's people there, and they're walking around, and they're gonna maybe go into one of the thrift stores. They're gonna grab a bite to eat. You know, they're gonna go get a coffee or a pastry. I mean, they're there.
We have a ton of residents in the downtown area.
Yeah.
I believe there was, you know, I think Kevin said there was about 70 units within, you know, the area of downtown. And, you know, what are they looking for? You know, maybe before making any type of recommendation, maybe we reach out to them, you know, any type of survey and say, what specifically would you like within walking distance? Is it more retail? Is it more restaurants?
Is it an office?
Is it an office? Maybe they would love to, you know, have their, you know, their home up and maybe be able to rent an office space to where they're, you know, a financial consultant. So I think potentially maybe reaching out to the vicinity residents and saying, what specifically are you looking for? Because they're going to probably be, you know, a large percentage of those
Who are using it.
businesses. You know, continued foot traffic,
Yeah.
you know, daily foot traffic. And again, that might help us determine, you know what, they don't want the 1/3 retail. They don't want retail anymore. They get their retail
Sure.
from
Walmart.
Amazon, or whoever. And so that would help us determine, yeah, you know what, we can remove this 1/3, put other restrictions in, because I'm very sure that I don't want all, you know, real estate agents down there. Even though that might be who everybody wants, or that people want to be in there, and that the property owners would love to have those people because it's a consistent tendency. I think having those restrictions would be something, if we remove the 1/3 requirement, that I strongly
Advocate
recommend
for.
and that I would advocate for. But I think one of the first steps would be, what do people want downtown?
My take, I think is probably between both of you. I think removing the 1/3 is healthy to allow other services that are needed. You know, I think the gaming lab or whatever you want to call it, gaming place for kids to come game computer games. Like, that's not allowed under this requirement, because they're
In
not.
the 2/3 it
In the
would.
1/3, because
Right.
they're not selling
But they could
retail.
sell candy
right?
and the water.
But that tenant who's gonna come invest money is like, well, I don't wanna come for that. By removing that, by leaving that, you're losing those type of tenants. I think restricting it to where you don't have 12 doctor's offices and 14
Yeah.
retail, real estate agents coming in, I think that's important too, because you do need, to your point, we need foot traffic to maintain in those doctor's offices. Yeah, you'll get appointments, but I don't think they're not giving service. And I do agree that the unique characteristics of Fillmore is having that downtown space. I would like to understand, maybe staff could look into seeing what other cities downtown that are popular. You know, Ventura, downtown Ventura, they seem to always have foot traffic and things happening down there. Events happening coming to their downtown area. Do they have a requirement of retail there in their, you know, in their, yeah. And Santa Barbara, do they have one? Santa Clarita, Valencia, they have tons of retail spaces that attract people. What brings storefronts there? I think I love the idea of supporting small business and kind of helping guide them to funding sources that could really help. I don't think that, I think that on top of removing it and limiting the type of businesses, and that combination could really, to your point, kind of
Revitalize.
yeah, bring back that downtown area. I think there's definitely a happy medium here somewhere.
The only thing I would say is that, you know, these buildings architecturally, I mean, they're historic buildings, right? They were made for retail. As Jacob said, it was kind of like once the town started, basically, they had this city center, and it becomes like a public living room. Like, it is a place where people want to walk to it on a Friday night and hang out. So if it's all businesses that primarily are closed at night or closed on Sundays, is it really active? Do people want to even come here? I mean, already, like, a lot of them are closed on Sundays. I would love to be able to walk down to downtown from my house and go get something to eat and go see a movie or hang out there with my friends. Like, I would love that. But right now, it's like very limited the times that I can do that. And if you remove that retail requirement, it's going to become even more limited. And to your point about the arcade or whatever, I mean, I think you could accommodate the front third. Okay, we're gonna sell, you know, tickets to get into the arcade. We're gonna sell water bottles. We're gonna sell candy or, you know, snacks or whatever.
Is that the definition within the ordinance?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Maybe that's what we need to look at, because it seems like it's very flexible already. And 2/3
I guess
of the.
my question would be, what's the benefit of forcing that on a business like that?
So it's open, so there's foot traffic in the front of the space, that the window is occupied, that you have some visual point of interest that people, why would they come here if it's all?
Well, I think you could still have that
Okay.
storefront and not sell something. I think you could maintain that aesthetic. I really do. I think bringing foot traffic is our biggest problem. I also think a marketing campaign would be beneficial.
Yes, certainly.
The city having more events downtown. You
Certainly.
know, when they have the car show down there.
Or the holiday parade.
The holiday parade. There's a lot of foot traffic and people go into the storefronts.
Yeah.
I think there's a strategy to it more than, it's definitely a bigger discussion than just removing one thing. It might fix some problems.
Yeah.
It might allow the property owners to have more flexibility on who they lease to. Hopefully, we could get vacancies down, and I think naturally, if vacancies are down, it'll naturally bring other businesses. Because if you're a business, if I'm a business owner and I'm gonna make an investment, I'm not coming to a downtown area that has 14 vacancies.
Right.
It's just naturally, it's not gonna happen. Now, if there was services in those storefronts, and if there was people coming and visiting the areas, I'm then gonna think, hey, I'm gonna invest into this downtown area. I might put $1 million into renovating my space and bringing something to the city.
One of the things to Ashley's point is, once that property has been converted to something, take a restaurant.
Over.
It's converted to a restaurant. Now you have the back third of that restaurant now as a kitchen. If you want it now to, the restaurant closes, because 60% of restaurants close within the first 2 years. Now you bring in somebody else. If it's going to be a retailer, now there's a ton more work that needs to be done, because you don't need a kitchen. So do you remove the kitchen for back, storage room, those types of
But I
things.
think you can already have a restaurant. I think it's more about, like, let's say it's some person, I don't know, an accountant or something, and some type of business or some type of service where you don't really have foot traffic. Like, honestly, like an architecture firm. Like, if I had my office there, I have maybe a client come for an in-person meeting, which is very rare now, once a month. Other than that, my door is locked. I'm not having people come in there, and I'm closed on the weekends. So now my office space, and I'm gonna live until I'm 100, so I'm gonna be there forever.
Right.
What happens? So you can't get that space back. Like, what if there's 5 people like that? It's half of the downtown now, closed all weekend, closed at night.
But what's the difference from what it is in the state it is now?
Well, like I said, I don't think it has to do with the retail requirement, because I think even if you lease it to somebody else, they could leave immediately as well. There's other vacancies around town that have nothing to do with retail requirements. So I think it's really about the support. I think if there is, and maybe, you know, you can remove the retail, but I still think you need to have some type of activation program for the downtown where, you know, sure, all these funding sources exist. We just acknowledge they're very difficult to navigate. What if they're all put together? What if there's a concerted, you know, effort to make a plan where, you know, you can do the tenant improvement grant for the third, you know, for the downstairs. You can add that to, I want streamlined permitting. I want the facade improvement as well. I can put all of that stuff together, and the city has already prepared this lovely database and portal for me that I can find out how exactly to do that. And I also think that there could be like a pilot program with like a very modest amount of funding and see how it works. I mean, I'd be very interested to see like something like that pop up, like a database of, okay, you were talking about the database of the vacancies, have something like that, and then, you know, these are these businesses that are looking for this type of space. Can we somehow subsidize the rent for a couple months and see if they can do it? Or maybe there's multiple little pop-ups in one storefront. And that's another thing, it's like if you had the 1/3 retail and the 2/3 non-retail, the front person could be a different business than the back person. You could still have your architecture firm in the back and sell, you know, candy or whatever in the front. I mean, I don't know what you're selling, but whatever. Or even the hair salon, it's like you could sell shampoo in the front. I don't see how that's really restricting.
I just think we're too fixated on what we want. I think at this point, what we need to do is reach out to the city, not just downtown, but to the city and start, you know,
Yeah.
the city does a great job on Facebook, putting the info out there. Let's just start asking what the needs of the city are or is, and then let's accumulate that data, and then that can put some of these what ifs to bed.
Yeah.
And then from there, we can focus on what the needs of the city are. Because we're talking about implementing, well, we can't. We need to know what the city needs so we can support what the city needs. That's just my input.
I completely agree with you, and I mean, that's why I kind of was reading that quote to you from that interview, because, yeah, sure, I have certain opinions, but that was also the opinion of those people at that
94,
time.
right.
And I bet you if you do like an Instagram, like poll or something on the city's Instagram, what do you think? Do you want more retail? Do you want more shopping? Do you want more office space? What are you looking for? I don't know how we phrase the question, but I completely agree with you.
Yeah, I agree. Again, I think it's somewhere in the middle of all
Yeah.
the things we discussed, definitely, but for sure we need the information from, the feedback from the city and what
We
is.
need to know their needs.
Yeah, and I would assume the ad hoc committee gathered some data before they presented? Or
No,
the city?
we didn't survey the community.
Okay.
So I think that discussion there would be something that the planning commission would be recommending to city council as part of a planning commission recommendation, as opposed to the planning commission doing that directly. I think that's a council direction
Yeah.
type of thing. So that would be part of the planning commission's resolution or explained in the staff report that's presented to the city council for this item. The other thing that I wanted to mention that just jumped out from a legal and practical perspective, there was some discussion about regulating the types of businesses that might come in place of retail and ensuring that it's not all the same type of business next door to each other. I think that's practically and legally very difficult to implement. It's the type of thing, it kind of makes me curious what other cities maybe that don't have a retail, if they do anything, but I've not heard of that being done, and I can see that presenting legal challenges, so that's just something I wanted to
But
flag
we
for the
currently
planning
regulate thrift stores. Thrift stores allowed on one side of the block and only one.
But I don't think you could say, have a blanket regulation that we're kind of thinking ahead of what might, for hypothetical types of uses in the future. But just something to think of, that would require more thinking. It's not something we could just implement, or it'd have to be looked into more.
So although tonight we're not because of the noticing issue, we're not making any resolution, so we're going to be requesting to continue the discussion to the February meeting. So would this be something to get direction from the city council regarding doing the survey and having them do that? Is that something that, since we're not recommending anything other than asking the city council to do that, or that has to be agendized for us to request and have a resolution to the city council?
That would be part of the planning commission recommendation to the city council that's made at the next
In
meeting,
February,
not
okay.
at this.
So right now you've offered direction. So I've written down some of the things that you've asked for that we can do before the next meeting and present it to you. And then some of the things, it'll have to be part of your recommendation to the city council. I'm ready to summarize those when you're ready, when your
Yeah.
discussion's over, but you may still be discussing it.
Anybody else?
No.
I think we're,
So I've heard you. You would like for us to come back in February and you want to understand about the vacancy rate. We can do that for you, and we can provide that on GIS map or on some other kind of mapping method. You also asked for the retail strategy report that itemized all their marketing and improvements in downtown with entrepreneurial programs and other kinds of things like that. It's quite extensive. City council's already seen it and they've already approved it, and they've got timelines on it, and it would really help you in your review of the 1/3 retail. We can provide that to you right after tonight's meeting. You also asked, and this could be part of your recommendation, but you've asked that we survey downtown residents or just residents in the city. What type of retail are you looking to have that you would support? You wouldn't have to drive to Walmart in Ventura or Santa Clarita or wherever. That could be a recommendation. By next meeting, you want to know what have other cities have done to attract retail, or what have they done to regulate retail. So I'll provide those 4 items. The others is just part of your discussions. You've had a lot of discussion, and maybe that will be part of your recommendation next month.
sounds good. That, I have a motion to continue. Do I need a motion to continue public hearing? Can I?
Yes, yeah, we should have a motion
A
to,
motion to, you want to make a
Motion to
motion?
continue the hearing until the February meeting.
I have a second.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Passes 4-0.
and just for, that's the February 18th, 2026 planning commission meeting?
Correct. All right, with that, we move on to item 6, reports and communications. 6A, any planning commissioner brief reports? Any commissioners have anything? Report?
I had sent you an email, Kevin, but I'm not sure if it's something to share with the commission or not, about the letter I received about the Wildland Conservancy. I don't know if you saw it.
I haven't, I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay.
Are they
Well,
asking to purchase some downtown, some property in the
No.
river bottom property?
Apparently, they have purchased some property in the hills of Fillmore, and I received a letter from it came from a Ventura address, so I don't actually know who the person is, or if they live in Fillmore. But they seem opposed to the project. They want to do like campgrounds and like outdoor education type of.
Okay, I need to see what you've sent me.
Okay.
Would you mind resending that to me?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Because there is somebody purchasing property on the hillsides.
Yes.
I'm not sure who that is. They've been in communication with the city's property. The city owns property up
Okay.
there. So I like to get a little more background. And then there is an agency buying river bottom and preserving river bottom. And I think that's a separate entity. So if you could forward that to me, I'll provide you information that I know.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to find out if that was even in city jurisdiction or if we had an opportunity to check it out. And so I'll send it to you. again.
Okay.
All right, that, we'll move on to 6B. Kevin?
There are 4 development projects I'd like to update you on. One is the Bridges subdivision. This time next year, the project will be completed That's 750 homes. All building permits but one has been issued. There are 17 lots that we're waiting for them to start construction. They have 3 large public improvements that need to be done. One is the bike path. I expect that to be completed by March. The other is the entryway, 2.5 acres of entryway. We're in plan check with that. We've done 3 plan checks for that. And the other is a 9.5 acre park. We haven't started the plan check process. We're expecting to start the plan check process in February. And I give you updates whenever I take pictures of that subdivision. The other is Creekside Development, which is, oh my gosh, I forgot how many units, 135 units, I think. They're grading and they're moving forward. And the other is Sonic. The question is, when's Sonic going to be done? I don't know. Whenever the developer finishes it. I mean, I don't manage construction projects, so I'm told it'll be done this year. And the other is something called the Packing House. The Packing House is right across the street from the Fillmore Fire Station and the Public Works Yard. Would you guys, I don't think you're aware of it, but for the last 7 years, that property owner has been making that property safe for the building code, fire sprinklers and all kinds of things. They had tenants in there that we've been going through, and we've had agreements with the city council. So that portion of it is nearing completion, and then they have plans in the future. They'll need to submit an application for those that will go through you. But they've been doing significant amount of work, especially in the last year. That's it on the construction. I'll take any questions you might have.
I just have one on the Sonic, or I guess it's for any business like that that'll open up. Does I thought I was talking louder. Do those businesses normally invite like city council? I know like before they do like a ribbon cutting ceremony, but do they do like a soft opening that you're aware of, any business in the city for items like that, to where like city staff or council would be able to go in and kind of like experience it before it opens to the public?
Sometimes, and sometimes they do ribbon cutting, but not always.
Would that be something that they offer, or is it something that?
No, they would offer it.
Okay.
But I mean, if you like, we can ask them. I mean, we know them very well for Sonic. You know, you want to test it first and overcome mistakes that you have before you open it to the public.
Well, yes, but.
Are you looking for a free hamburger?
No, but more or less, I'm really curious about traffic patterns that are going to be coming through there.
We already know. I mean, it's not rocket science.
Right.
So when they submitted an application to us about 10 years ago, the city staff advised them against this particular property. But Sonic was insistent. I mean, there were other properties available to them, but Sonic was insistent, and our issue was circulation. It's hard. It will be hard to get in and out of there when it's popular.
Right. Okay.
That's a known.
I've never been to one, so.
Oh,
This is curiosity.
it'll be difficult.
Thank you.
There was a affordable housing development that I know we didn't look at, but passed through.
You want to know the status of that?
Yeah.
It is an approved project. I approved it. Consists of 50 affordable units. 13 of them are for what's called supportive housing. Those are basically homeless people. It's located on Palm Street between Santa Clara and Highway 126. It's one full city block. They're in construction plan check number 5. They are not funded. They attempted twice to get state funding and they did not get it because it's highly, highly competitive. They're preparing for submittal number 3 for the state for state funding. There's a state law that says if a affordable project complies with your general plan and applies with the zoning ordinance, complies with it, the city's obligated to approve it without public hearings and without going to the planning commission and without going to the city council. So the project ultimately complied with all of those things, so we bypassed environmental review and your review in city council. It's going to be a project that will dedicate land to the city to widen Santa Clara Street, widen Palm Street, widen the alley, and widen Highway 126 for access. If it gets funding, it'll move quickly. So we haven't made any public presentation on it because it's just a project that's just not funded yet. So we just don't know how real it is. But we've been through quite a bit of plan check. We've done serious review internally for about 3 years. It's located right across the street from the active adult center or the bus shelter.
So I have.
For the packing house, that's a historic building, right?
No, it's just old.
Well,
So it's not designated a historical landmark, not by the city, not by the county, not by the state, not by federal government. It's just over 50 years old, that's,
So it could be
it could be,
CEQA.
yeah, it could be, but it's just old.
Yeah.
Have you ever been inside of a packing house building?
No, but I just know that most of the time they are historic.
It's beautiful. I mean,
Yeah.
the floor to ceiling space is like 45 feet and
Yeah.
a sawtooth roof. It's just natural light
Yeah.
coming in. And they used real lumber. I mean,
Yeah.
real lumber, big giant beams, but
Yeah.
it's unreinforced.
Right.
I wouldn't want to be in there in an earthquake.
So are they-
Portions of it has been reinforced and it does have fire sprinklers.
So they're doing seismic retrofitting and,
No.
or is that what's happening?
No, it's a portion of the building had earthquake damage from 1994, and that portion was retrofitted, and they've done fire sprinklers, but they had to do access and some other emergency stuff for the building code. And after that, it's basically a vacant site. They've had some tenants in there. They didn't get permits, and the property owners had to
Get 'em.
remove them. He wants to move forward. He has ideas of what he wants to do there, and they're good ideas. And it's a beautiful space.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, with that, we'll move on to item 7, adjournment. We're adjourning the planning commission to the next regular planning commission on February 18th, 2026 at 6:30 PM in the city council chambers.